Introducing the first of its kind, the new Swissborg Meta Exchange. Multi-chain execution, any crypto, any fiat, to any token. Trade freely across chains, Solana, Avalanche, and more to come. Swissborg Meta Exchange, multi-chain, cross-chain, no limits.
What's up, Swissborg community? Nico, can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Great to see you, my friend. How's everyone doing in the Swissborg community? I already see the green hearts. I see 5 green hearts. 3 from Nico Konut, Stomuk, Julien Asta, Marshall, Stomik, Tieno, Luca. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys are amazing. Good to see Dan in the house as well. Rezoman, Russell MC, Crypto PAG, Steve. Thank you so much, guys. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, Nicolas, last time we mentioned and we talked about the Hyperliquid integration, which was a huge milestone for us, was only on May 26th. This is only 3 weeks ago. Why are we already here?
That was 3 weeks ago, and it was a world first to have like a fintech integrate natively with Hyperliquid. We're still there. Since we had news that like a lot of fintech are starting to follow path of Swissborg and copying us in the sense of like they're integrating on DEX, which is great. It means that like, you know, we're a leader and people are following us. And yet tonight we're announcing another first. So that's very cool.
It's amazing. And I must say, Nicolas, I am just, as we say in French, le porte-parole, but this deserves a huge bell, as you guys can see here.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
The team has been cooking.
The team has been cooking. A huge shout out to the Swissborg devs and engineers for busting their butts off for you guys.
Cooking
for us, right, Nico?
Yes.
Is that a little bit of a hint, Nico, that hat you had there, the little chef
hat? I don't know. It's like in the pan you had, like possibly that, like you know, maybe a bit of a hint. Who knows?
Oh, great. Nana, Russell, Stefan, thank you guys so much for coming back.
Was that like a pan from Canada that you had? At least for my hat, it was from Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah, another hint.
You look very good in that. We should take pictures with these little chef hats. It looks really, really good. Awesome. It's amazing to be back with you, Nicolas. I'm super excited to have you. Last time I was obviously without you, so it was very daunting. Yeah. So I'm glad to have you this time.
It happens. I was busy at the Avalanche Summit representing Swissborg, and that was great. We had a very
I saw you on the big stage, right?
Yeah, I was on the big stage. We had like big visibility, a lot of panel. People are starting to hear about Swissborg and wondering what those guys are cooking.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of which, that is the perfect segue to understand what is Swissborg cooking and what are we going to reveal to you, beautiful community, today. So without further ado, and everyone can remember that we use this digital world or digital city to make people really understand the power of the MEX as an analogy, as you know, Nicolas. So rather than making DeFi feel like different worlds where you need to take a plane or it's really hard to access another blockchain, everything feels together like one DeFi city at the tip of your fingers. So as you guys know, we started off with the 5 sexes. And then Nicolas and the amazing devs and engineers at Swissborg integrated Solana and have done a lot of work, many DEXs, AMMs, LP pools on Solana. Yes?
By far the first chain that we launched, and is still, like, I would say, the very number 1 chain in terms of trading volumes. And we see that, like, you know, we every day flirt with like the 10,000 transaction on the chain, which is quite substantial. And we see that like this happens across so many DEX, as you can see on the graph. So that's very exciting.
Very exciting. And look at this, Nicolas. Croix Recanut is also cooking, he's saying. Je suis en train de cooking aussi.
Exciting.
These comments are amazing. Keep coming, guys. Keep coming. We love these comments. They're amazing. And then, of course, we went to Avalanche, which Nicolas just mentioned, and was invited to speak on the main exchange panel. which is fantastic. And after that, the engineering team focused on Berachain. As you remember, we have Bex and Kodiak. And just 3 weeks ago, we finished integrating Hyperliquid, Hypercore, which I think is one of the most exciting integrations, right, Nicolas? In addition to Solana.
It's an absolute success. It's like you guys have been like trading like crazy. We see that like Hyperliquid trading volume is in the top 10 every single day since we launched. So it's definitely an asset that like was worth it, worth the effort. And we see the continuous growth of the protocol. There was all-time high yesterday, the day before. Things are going well on Hyperliquid.
Yep, absolutely. And I think you mentioned something really good, Nicolas, is like not only Hype went up to a new all-time high, which was only through Swissborg. I think a few exchanges with less liquidity, of course, worse pricing, tried to list them. But we had Per, right? The meme coin, which literally mooned after we listed it. I think it more than doubled in price. And once again, only with Swissborg on the MEX, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we're the only one to offer the liquidity that is native on the Hypercore. And when you look at like Hyperliquid, despite now having some SECs that are trying to list it, what's very important to understand is that like it is changing the narrative. And so the projects are not paying for it. So it's the SECs that are like struggling to kind of like keep their catalog up to date and that are figuring this, but then they don't make as much money and the liquidity is not good. So most of the liquidity to 80% is still on chain on Hypercore. And that's what you're accessing when you go through Swissborg.
Very well put, Nicolas. Very well put. Wise words. And so this is the MEX, guys, right? It's essentially the entire DeFi world in a single app. And the DeFi world is expanding day by day. And so today we will reveal what the new chain is. And maybe some of you have a clue. But before we do that, I think, Nicolas, it's really good to take a step back and go at the highest level and really understand what is a MEX, how does it fare against a SEX or a DEX? Because sometimes we go a little bit too into the nitty gritty without looking at really what is a MEX. But if we compare all three of these, on the SEX side, it's not all bad, right? There's some quality and important things or strengths that the SEXs bring to our MEX, correct, Nico?
100%. And I would say SECs are not bad and DEX are not bad per se. And the reason for that is that like the Swissborg MEX is leveraging them both. So it's just that like they both have their strength. And with our engine, we are capable of taking the best of the SECs and the best of the DEX to put them together. And that is really like the beauty of the MEX.
Absolutely. Very well put, Nicolas. And you guys can see here in green on a very high level, right? So sexes tend to have best UX. They're more friendly to the masses or mass friendly. They're also much faster and more efficient. And for depending on the tokens, may have more liquidity and better pricing, especially if you're aiming for larger amounts, which is not always the case. And of course, is variable according to the tokens. But also, there's a little bit of due diligence as well, right, Nicolas? There are a lot of scam coins, a lot of people getting spoofed, fished, and a lot of issues that could happen through a DEX as well, right? If you add the wrong
100%.
contract.
Like, there is endless stories about issues that happen on chain. And it takes a lot of experience to be able to secure and know on how to do. And so this is like the expertise that like you're leveraging when you go through Swissborg.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
any protocol goes through a due diligence, and we do a lot of work to kind of like secure our operations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Timur, yes, meilleur commu, 100% Swissborg community. You guys are the best community by far. By far, we love you to pieces. So thank you so much for that. But then on the downside, you guys can see here in red, the problem with the sexes is, of course, launching and listing token practices. We've seen this in the past, Nicolas, where they're ripping off people. They're dumping the token supply of other projects, killing them at the listing. And there's some custody and
tons of
hacks
things
issues.
like we can't share here because we don't want to do that. But like Alex, myself has access to a lot of information that like, when we put shady and greedy, it's because like we know about it. It's not
100%.
just like random adjectives. It's just things that like either of us would not be comfortable with the kind of practice that we've heard.
100%. And I think the nature, karma will make them pay the price, right? The more this happens, the more that happens to projects, the more they're squeezing from the incentive flywheel, the more people will look for different alternatives, the more it will be known, and eventually that will come back and bite them in the butt, right, Nicolas? So we don't have to be political and
100%.
call people out. And then, guys, you can see here on the DEX side, transparency. It's ethical, transparent on the order book side, which, by the way, some people are criticizing on Hyperliquid for it being too transparent when you're showing when you have open interest on big trades, Nicolas. Then you can access any token on DEXs, but that also includes scams. You have the issues with the UX, with gas tokens, fees, bridges, multiple wallets. But on a high level, Nicolas, like, what to you are the key points? If we really want to explain that, there are good and bad on a SEX side, there's good and bad on the DEX side, what are the key points for you?
Yeah, the key points is really that like on DEX, you have a long tail of assets. We live in a world where like we are going to have an exponential number of tokens. Like, at the end, when you look at the stock market, it's very limited. And the reason is because like from an operation standpoint, it's a disaster. And, going through a listing on the NASDAQ or Wall Street or then other exchange in Europe or in Switzerland, it's a very long and costly process. And on the other hand, creating a token, when you go on pump.fun, it just takes like a few seconds. And so that's the thing, is that like token, we've dematerialized everything. And so you can create a token with nothing. Where you just need an image, a meme, and you have a token, and then you can create anything. And then there is tons of new narratives, such as like the internet capital market and all those kind of things that makes it that like we can create tokens very quickly and effectively. And so the DEX are here because it scales. Now, SEX is something that is much more akin that like we find in the stock market, where there is a lot of manual process, and you need a market maker. And so listing a token on a SEX, it can't be automatized because it's a lot of human relationship. So you have a project where you need to connect with market maker and start this entire process of animating the market, and that can't be discovered and made on chain. And so this is why like it's a very tailored made system. But on the other hand, you don't have gas, it scales much more, you have lower latency, and that makes it that like there is a different dynamic. But on the other hand, we see a lot of development happening on chain, and Hyperliquid is changing that narrative where like the gap between a DEX and a SEX is shrinking like drastically. So I would say every SEX is starting to feel the heat. We know that like Bybit this week, they announced that like, hey guys, we might want to launch like a kind of DEX hybridish, and it's going to be on Solana, so we can integrate it easy peasy.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's the perfect segue, Nicolas, to going one level lower. So we tried to go here, guys, at the highest level to really look at the philosophical, the product side, and the offering for the retail investor. But let's dive a little bit further, guys, and understand what it means to really create the best of the on-chain and off-chain worlds, which my brother said in the early days in the ICO video, we feel the urge to merge the best of the off-chain and on-chain worlds, which is fantastic. It's literally what we're doing, guys, 8 years after that video, which is absolutely fantastic. And then here, guys, so we're looking more at specifics. And the reason why I wanted to create this slide, Nicolas, is because in one of the Swissborg community Telegram group chats, someone was upset that he managed to find a trade that was cheaper on Jupiter than on Swissborg, and he was a premium. And I thought that this was the perfect chance for us to zoom out and really look at the nitty-gritty, at the specifics on where Swissborg can be the best, where we're decent, and where we're good, and really give a better scale of understanding the difference between all of them. And here, guys, you can see we have seven different criteria that we'll look at. Maybe what we can do, Nicolas, we can do one each. I'll start with the first one, and if you want to do the second one. So we're comparing, guys, the sexes, once again, the MEX and the DEX, including the aggregators like 1inch and Jupiter. So here, when it comes to custody, now I'm going to get a little bit of backlash on this. People are going to start saying negative things based on my personal judgment. But listen to me, guys. It's not that personal. It's actually an objective and not subjective opinion here. Because the way I scored this in terms of giving the MEX green, Nicolas, and green and red for sexes is number one, the sexes that hold their own custody, that don't use a third party, that don't have the right security measures, that are not experts in understanding custody, like what we saw with Bybit. Those sexes are already dangerous, right? If they're holding their own custody and they don't know how to segregate the assets. But maybe there may be some sexes that do it right, like Coinbase with BitGo, or they have some sort of cold storage. So I put 50-50, depending on the sex. Some people may have good practices. Some people may have bad practices. And on the DEX side, now this is where some people may be upset. They say, what do you mean custody is 50-50? I just believe, and this is based on data, Nicolas, that having an on-chain wallet and managing your own private keys and potentially accepting the wrong contract or potentially getting spoofing or spamming or clicking on the wrong link, I just feel based on data that for some people, clearly there's a track record of people losing a lot of money, while with MPC technology, as far as I know, I haven't managed with Grok and OpenAI to see any hacks up until now. So I gave us full score on Swissborg, and I know that we're not a non-custodial, but I put this as the safest amongst the three options. Am I too biased, Nicolas? What do you think?
I think it always kind of depends on who we're talking about, right? So, for instance, if you have a hardware wallet, you're definitely quite safe. Now, the question is, how do you back up your hardware wallet? So, in the unfortunate case of there is a fire in your building, did you lose all your wealth? And so for not losing all your wealth means that you have a backup outside of that building. I've already been through a situation where twice in my life there was a fire in the building I lived. I've never been in danger, and I would say it's all good, but it could have been. And going through all that process is relatively complex. So, of course, people that are experts, and there's tons at Swissborg because cybersecurity is what we live with, they might prefer to do that. But I would say for the general person, and I would say Swissborg is the best because it's just you don't have to think about. And that's what we all want, right? Is that we just want to use the service and feel safe and be safe.
Yes. And it's exactly what you're saying, Stefan actually mentioned full security equal MPC. I agree, MPC technology. And you made that decision. Do you remember way back, Nicolas? We were one of the first to adopt MPC technology to secure our wallets, which we're really proud of. And I remember hearing essentially many stories, and I was involved in some where it could be, as you said, a fire, it could be an explosion, it could be you have an accident and you just lost your memory, your brain doesn't function well. It could be someone dying, which, as you know, at Swissborg there was one employee who died and had everything on ledgers. And then when I tried to recuperate some of the funds, some were being staked on chain, very hard to find all the funds. The firmware had some issues. I had to contact Ledger. There are a lot of issues, right?
There's a lot of things. And the thing is that if you have a private key or if you self-custody, you never know when you're going to be hacked. Because I can steal the private key of someone and do nothing. And that's very problematic because one day when you start to have funds on it, that you worked for years, you've accumulated wealth. Then all that wealth disappeared because that was the moments where the person was oh, well, now it looks like enough money so that like I can take it.
Yep. Absolutely. Amazing. Great. Thank you so much for that. And next one is for you. So here, Nicolas, the second category is major crypto swaps. So we're talking about Bitcoin, ETH, XRP. Do you agree with this scoring, as in the sexes
And
and
so
next? Yeah.
what's important to understand is that like all those majors that like you're highlighting here, Alex, and we can add Sol or Hype even that like, you know, as it's growing so fast, they all live in a different blockchain. And so it's not so easy to create swaps. So for instance, you know, as we said, and we are quite proud of it, we were the first one to integrate Solana as a backend. And there's a lot of trades that like you guys are doing on the Swissborg app that translates on the Solana chain. Those swaps are mostly between native tokens, or we're using a pivot such as USDC or Sol to then escape to jump under the ecosystem. Now, when you're on BTC and ETH and XRP, if you want to do a swap between those, well, it's different blockchain, so it means bridge and or IOUs. And that is something that like at the moment has not been an easy one. So typically for Bitcoin, there has been like wrap BTC, but this one has like risk of depeg because it's not even one for one. And XRP, there is no bridge at the moment that like put it to across big chain. So you have like the second or third biggest asset, depending on how you look at it from an FDV or a market cap, and it's completely different. You can't swap it on chain, right? And so that's a big problem. So that's where like centralized exchange definitely have an edge because it doesn't matter of the chain. It's just like, you know, you handle the custody and you do your stuff. And that's something that like Swissborg can fully leverage. We have an MPC custody, as you mentioned. We leverage that. We can custody all those assets, and then we can transfer them on CEST to arrange the trade at best price. As you know, you guys, we always do at best price from like the snapshot, and that's always through the lens of our engine, right? And on the other hand, on DEX has said that it's not as good. So I think we're good for that line, and we can go to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, just for you to understand, this is very important because some people say, why don't you just connect to DEXs? Unfortunately, that may be the future. But as of today, as Nicolas is saying, if you're buying Bitcoin on Solana, that is not real Bitcoin. And just for everyone to know, WBTC, WETH, STETH, every single one of these synthetic tokens have depegged, every single one since 22. I've looked at it, Nicolas, between 1 all the way down to 10% for some. So the risk is there, definitely. So in this case, we all agree that the DEXs are in the red.
There are a ton of options, and we're looking at it. And like, you know, we just talked about Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid has a spot market for BTC, but that means that there is a bridge. And then it all boils down on what's the security of the bridge.
Yes.
At the moment, it doesn't fit our requirements, but we're working on it. We're giving feedbacks to a lot of teams so that like, you know, we can start to trade those assets eventually on chain. It will come.
Absolutely. So the next, I'll be very quick, guys. So here in this case, we're talking about a single chain with a native token swap. So let's say, for example, USDC to Sol, or USDC to Jupiter, or USDC to any of the major Solana tokens on a Solana chain. Here I put Nicolas Swissborg MEX in darker green. So it's kind of in between, right? It's never going to be as good as 1inch that aggregates from more DEXs and that has been building their own technology for best price execution, but it can still be better than the CESTs for the Solana tokens. Is this correct as an assessment?
Yeah, that's very correct. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. This one, do you want to take it, Nico? Multi-chain swaps. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah. So it went again because like of the structural architecture of the MEX. We have something that is gasless and bridgeless, and so when like you want to do a swap, where by far like the best place is like we can do everything, right? Now on CEST, there's a lot of assets that are not going to be listed, and so this is why it gets very difficult to do. And on DEX, you know, like for instance, I'm just making an example, but like we listed Colony on Avalanche. That is a token that like is not listed anywhere on OSX. It's only available on Avalanche, and you can swap it in one click for IveMapper, for instance. That is going to be on another DEX on Solana, and all that executed in 3 seconds. There is no other user experience that is like that, right?
And that's
And then,
exactly what I added to the next one, Nicolas, because we have also multi-chain, as you're absolutely right. Multi-chain also includes access to micro caps, or as you like to call them, long asset, coins.
yes,
So
the long tail asset, yes.
the long tail assets. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Mhm.
and here obviously with DEXs you have a wider catalog, but that includes all the scams, right?
Yes. So something that like is very important to understand is that like at Swissborg, we've accelerated the listing. And so as we accelerate the listing, you know, we take more. And some people are saying, oh, this one's a meme coin, this one's a scam, or this one is yet a copy of another DEX and stuff. And what's very important to understand is that those assets are not scams. There are like things that like perhaps don't match your view. There are perhaps assets that are going to zero. Who knows? We're not here to take like an investment decision regarding what we list. The point is that like we offer opportunities, and we try to kind of like have like the biggest catalog so that you guys can decide what's the best place to invest. But we do a due diligence on every single token that we have. And it's quite serious. It goes from reviewing the white paper, doing a background check on every public and doxed team members. So of course, when like the project has no public figure and stuff, it's difficult, but it also makes it that it's going to be more difficult to list at Swissborg, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's really, really well put. And obviously, so multi-chain swaps and all these having the fiat trading pairs, as we discussed, that helps with the UX and the time. So here you guys can see that with the CEX, everything is quite fast and the user experience is good. With the MEX, it's the same. With the DEX aggregators, it's a little more complicated, and there's no fiat also. So here is all in one. And here we can see also in red on the DEX side is that very often people need to manage multiple wallets. And as Nicolas was saying earlier, even if you're using a single wallet, you still have the gas tokens, which includes the gas fees, you have the bridges. So that is a lot of time saved when you have the MEX in this case.
100%.
And last but not least, obviously on the trustless side, the CEXs lose. Hopefully, Nicolas, what do you think? Do we deserve a green here because we have transparency on all the execution, on all the yields?
Yeah, exactly. We do a lot of efforts on showing what we do. I don't see another app on the market that has like that level of transparency. So I think this is very good. And then like what happens on a CEX is independent of what we do, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Nico. And guys, one last visual for everyone to fully understand, this particular trait. Nicolas said that it was good to make a spider chart. You guys can see that the goal here of showing CEX versus DEX versus MEX is not necessarily to say what is the best, right, Nicolas? It's to show that it's a different offering for a different type of person, and that the MEX in general is at least the average quality is above standards. Is that correct, Nico?
Yeah, that's right. So what I was saying to Alex this afternoon is that like there will always be situation like, where some people might be better than like the Swissborg Max. But one thing that like I'm quite convinced is that there is very little chance that like we're going to be in a situation where it's bad. And so it's what I said to Alex is like it's the all-weather solution, right? Where like you don't think about it, you take Swissborg, you do your trades, and you'll be fine.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's a really good analogy. I like to imagine us, as you said, some sort of four-wheel drive, tout terrain, as we say in French, that can literally go everywhere.
It's why I said is like, Swissborg might not be the Ferrari, and the Ferrari is something that like is very exciting. That like when you drive in the street, everyone was like, wow. But on the other hand, can't do much. If you're going on vacation, where do you put like all the luggage and all the stuff? If you want to go ski with it, like I'm not sure you're going to be super safe in the mountain with it. And the Swissborg Max is more that all-wheel drive car that has a hatchback, in a sense of like you can stuff all the gears that you want. If like you want to transport like something, you can. If you're a family of 5, or a group of 5, you can. If you want to go ski, you can. If it's off-road, you can. And that kind of things that like, it might not be the fastest, it might not be the prettiest, it might not be so many things, but there is one thing, is that it won't disappoint you.
100%. Very well said.
You're going to be fine.
Exactly. So I really like to see like the Mex as the DeFi hub all in one. Literally, you can do everything, unless, as you said, you really want to do DIY. You don't like automation. You don't like something simplified, and you really want to go specifically only in one ecosystem, like all in Solana. Then I understand the need for other platforms as well. And I think it's really cool to say, Nicolas, that now we have 16 FX and not 4 chains, but 5 chains plus 5 CEXs integrated. 24 dexes integrated. So the MEX is getting busy, huh?
It's getting very busy. It's you see that like now, like when we launched a year and a half ago, it was difficult. Like people didn't really see like what are those guys after, right? I feel like now the market is starting to realize that like trading on chain is becoming a reality. There is tons of projects that are going to launch. It's like the new frontier of trading, and like I see a future where like most is going to come on chain, right? And that like all what we just said before is going to be accentuated, in a sense of like all the ETF and the institutionals, they are going to continue on CEX, but it's going to be like that very deep liquidity on majors, and stop around that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nicolas, I think the hour has come. Let me get ready.
Let me get my
I think we have another chef actually waiting in standby. So that's a nice hat right there, Nicolas. So Swissborg community, can we see some green hearts? Can we see some energy here in the group chat? Are you ready for the new blockchain integration reveal and the new DEXs? Show us some green hearts, guys. Come on. Woo!
Let's go. Let's go.
LFG. Yes, Tomik.
All the
yes,
green hearts
Russell, Matthias.
Thank you,
Tatiana.
folks. We
There
feel
you go. Look at all these beautiful
so much
green hearts
here.
Celian.
This is wonderful.
Vegeta. Yes, Michael. Vicesemin, Julianas, Marcus. Say Vince. Thank you so much for the green hearts. So without further ado, we're going to reveal the new blockchain that will be integrated to the MEX so that we can make your DeFi experience even more special. So without further ado, here we go.
That's great.
Introducing one of the most powerful ecosystems in crypto. BNB chain is now live on the Swissborg app. Trade from 16 fiat currencies including Swiss franc, euro and British pound. Swap anything to anything, even across chains. Welcome to the most powerful liquidity hub in the industry. Swissborg. Multi-chain, cross-chain, no limits.
Okay. All right. So let's come back here, Nico, together. So as you guys can see, the new DEX is indeed the BNB chain. Woo! Nice work, Nico.
Yeah, it's just like, we proceed with the colors and we thought that like yellow was missing on that chart, and that's why we picked the BNB chain.
I am super bullish the BNB chain. I think it was a very smart choice, Nicolas, especially with what we're seeing with Binance Alpha. Because now Binance is realizing that a lot of VCs and people earlier on or KOLs are dumping tokens on day one. And this is not, by the way, anything formalized or anything official from Binance, but my personal hypothesis is that Binance is re-giving life to the BNB chain by getting projects to list on day one via the DEXs, which we'll talk about very, very soon. And we'll have a special guest within the next 10 minutes. But there's a big surge, right? We're seeing some big activity, isn't there, Nicolas?
100%. I would say CZ is putting all his weight on the development on chain. He has been very vocal about like his wish to see this grow. And I would say the last week have definitely been going in that direction. We see the activity on chain that like is surging. And so it makes complete sense for Swissborg to integrate with the BNB chain.
Yep, absolutely. And here's some proof, right, Nicolas? We can see here that the BNB chain, according to Dune Analytics, which, as you guys know, tracks all on-chain and fundamental data and information, we can see the number of transactions on BNB chain are going through the roof. The number of active wallets are going through the roof.
Yeah, so it just means that like in the last month it has doubled, and it's now like at the highest over the last 3 years, and that's very big.
It's very big, very, very big. So this is looking good. And so without further ado, guys, let's have a look at an example of a transaction. Nicolas, if you can guide us through, we're going to go through Swiss franc, and we're going to execute the BNB chain on Pancake Swap V3, I believe, in this transaction. Let's have a look if you can guide us.
All right, so we're starting with euro, and we are going to go to Venus. That is one of like the money markets on the BNB chain. And here we can see that like the euro has been converted to USDC on Kraken, or like that was the plan. Now we'll see what's being executed. As per usual, things are very fast. So here it's on 6 seconds, and what was in the preview is what has been executed. It means that like this euro were converted to USDC on Kraken. We went to Binance to go from USDC to BNB, and then from BNB to the Venus token, all in a single click, all in 6 seconds without having to do any kind of research about what's the bridge, what's the ecosystem, what's the wallet, do I have enough gas? None of them, all is abstracted away, and you just do your swap, press go, and finished.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicolas. And then the next one, what we're going to do is we're going to show a cross-chain swap. And before we watch this video, I just want to show someone, you guys, I just want to tell you guys that we're going to go through Hyperliquid in the next transaction. And what makes this so special is because as of today, Nicolas, right, there is no such thing as a bridge between Hyperliquid and BNB chain. It just does not exist.
There is no such a thing.
Bridge, right?
Hyperliquid is actually an ecosystem that is very isolated at the moment. So there is only a bridge that like will allow you to go to Arbitrum or to Ethereum, Sol, and Bitcoin. Those are coming, but like from Bitcoin, of course, you can't do a swap, and on Ethereum neither. So it's very new, and it really shows like on how powerful our engine is.
You guys hear this. Once again, I want to repeat myself. And this transaction, we're going to go from Hype token to the AB token. And just for you guys to know, once again, Hyperliquid, so Hypercore to BNB chain does not exist. If you wanted to do this trade yourself, which by the way, AB token is not listed on any major sexes, you would have to bridge twice. You guys heard what Nicolas said? You would have to bridge twice and manage multiple wallets. Now look how easy this is in terms of opening up opportunities with the MEX for the Swissborg community. Let's have a look together. All right.
Here we go.
So Nicolas, isn't this beautiful? Look at this path. Are you proud of your work?
This is very cool. You know, it's like I can spend so much time just looking at like the planning routes from the trading engine, the Max. It's lovely. And here you see this beauty is that like the Hype token was trading on Hypercore. We said the native DEX of Hyperliquid to go on USDC. This USDC immediately converted some Binance from USDC to BNB and then executed on Pancake Swap, that like is the native and the well-known DEX on the BNB chain, right? And so here you see that like we just use 2 DEX and 1 SEX, and that shows the trend, right?
There you go, guys. There you go. And I must add one important piece of information, Nicolas, which makes it even cooler. Actually, AB token, the token that we just executed to, is the best performing token in 2025. It has outperformed Hype. It has outperformed Virtual. It has outperformed SPX. And this is a token that is not listed on any major sexes. It's all of the liquidities on Pancake Swap, like 80 to 90% liquidities on Pancake Swap. So once again, guys, and I want to reiterate this, Nicolas, sorry for repeating myself, but it's just something that I really feel we need to repeat and repeat. The Swissborg MEX is not just about trying to find the best route at best prices. It's opening up opportunities, and as you like to call them, Nicolas, long tail assets before other sexes, right? So this is giving alpha, it's front running other sexes and giving access to tokens that some tokens that are really performing really, really well and opening up to opportunities for every single one of the Swissborg investors. Am I wrong to repeat this, or what do you think, Nico?
No, it's very, very clear. There was just like a question that like I would like to answer before I forget. That was asked in the comments. That was like regarding the MEV attacks. So we do a lot of work around that, and that is something that like we've deployed a lot of infrastructure. Now, depending on the situation, you know, we place the trades with like all the settings to protect against that. So to date, there has been like less than like a couple of transactions that like have been sandwiched, and so that means like an MEV attack. So we are doing very well on that, but that is because like we put a lot of work, depending on like, you know, how we structure the trade, on what are the RPC servers that we're using, and so on and so forth. So that's another advantage of going through us.
Thanks for catching that question, Nicola. I actually hadn't seen that question, so it's good that you caught it. And now, Nicola, because we're, as everyone can see here, right, when we're routing with the MEX, we essentially are doing two things. And once again, it's not necessarily about DEXs being better than sexes, right? It's just really focusing on getting you guys all the opportunities that you would like. And what happens here, right, as Nicolas is saying, the long tail assets, so tokens that are maybe slightly less popular than Cake or BNB or AB token that we just saw, some of them may route towards Binance order book. And as you guys know, we've integrated Binance. So the major coins will likely execute on a SEX because they have better pricing and more liquidity. But the other long tail assets, you know, that we list eventually on the BB chain, the earlier stage projects, will most likely execute on Pancake Swap. So we can have both, once again, long tail assets and also the majors for you with the best routes with a seamless experience. I guess that's with the lack of a better word. Exactly. So Nicolas, should we invite our special guest?
100%.
Okay.
Let's go.
Fran, are you here, buddy? Sorry for making you wait 15 minutes. Are you here, buddy?
No problem. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you well. We can hear you well.
First of all, I want to say congrats for the integration, not only of the whole blockchain, but also about us being the DEX. Really, really happy about that. And also, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
Listen, we are super happy to have you. Like, we actually created content with around Pancake Swap with the co-founder Anthony on a YouTube channel I used to run called Kryptonites TV. And at the time, Pancake was literally a few cents, Chef Fran. And so we were talking about you guys, and we were comparing, Pancake Swap with, I believe it was Pancake Swap versus Compound back in the day, or maybe it was another DEX, but it was very, very early days. And obviously you've come a very, very long way. So I think today we'd love to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing at Pancake Swap, how we can work together to optimize things, and what are some of your exciting milestones coming ahead.
All the trading ecosystem, sorry.
You can count on us, Chef Fran. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you guys. Have a nice rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Chef.
All right. So I think we can slowly wrap it up, but are there any words that you want to share, Nicolas, about today's, milestone? Once again, this is the beautiful picture of all of the blockchains, all of the DEXs, the LP pools, the AMMs, everything that our beautiful and amazing Swissborg engineering dev team with you have built. Anything to add at the end here?
No, it's that it's still a journey. Today is definitely not the final destination. We'll have some more calls to come. You and I, have a long pipeline. We're discussing a lot on this, and exciting about what's going to continue to come.
We have the big boss who seems very happy here. Bravo, Nico and Alex.
Yeah, looks like we sleep well.
Cyrus is here. That's great. Yeah, and I think one last thing, maybe if we can give a little bit of alpha for the Borgers who have stayed a little bit longer, all the way until the end. Do you think, Nicolas, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but do you think there's a possibility to adding another chain within the next month?
I say perhaps. Perhaps.
Because you set the bar really high. So guys, let us know on the X posts, if there are any particular chains where you think will get lots of alpha. And even though today, guys, the long tail assets, so let's talk about the micro, the small, the medium caps, are not performing necessarily well. There will be some tokens, especially when alt season comes, unfortunately, with the geopolitical tensions these days, with the fear of oil prices going up that may directly induce inflation. It's kind of made the markets a bit bumpy. This is a very, very long market before alt season comes. But if there are any chains that you guys already see potential alpha, it's very important that we integrate these chains on time. Because let's say, for instance, we see all of a sudden Bera chain has a huge technological innovation. And imagine the Bera token goes up and other tokens follow it. It's very important, right, Nicolas, that we have integrated the chains that may be going through this technological revolution, the future monads, the future mega ETH, and all these great chains, right?
100%. We're monitoring the space. We are doing a lot of R&D. There is more that is coming.
More is coming, dear family. Thank you so much for tuning in, and feel free to play around with the BNB chain and some of the tokens. I believe, guys, by the way, and this is another very cool milestone, I believe that we have surpassed 300 tokens in our catalog today, Nicolas. So for those who don't realize how much progress that is, I remember last summer we were not even at 150, so we more than doubled our catalog, right, Nicolas, in less than...
Yeah, we more than doubled. And now the question is how long until we'll double again?
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, Nicolas. It was amazing having you as always. Thanks for bringing your amazing chef hat as well.
Thank you, Alex, for the presentation. You're wonderful as per usual. And thank you so much for that community, all the messages that we've got for this last hour. Really means a lot. We are not alone here. You guys are fantastic.
Thank you so much, everyone. We love you, and hopefully see you within a month or maximum 2 with a new blockchain integration to give you guys, once again, more routes, better routes, more cross-chain without fees, without bridges, and giving you more opportunities. Thanks so much, guys, and have a lovely week ahead.
Thank you. Bye bye.